I woke up this morning with a sense of purpose. The kind of purpose that comes from a night's sleep and a fresh cup of coffee. I had made up my mind. Today would be different. Today, I was going to be the perfect mom. You know the kind. The mom who makes breakfast from scratch and has a beautifully organized home where every toy has a place. The mom who balances work and life effortlessly, who is always calm, patient, and never raises her voice. The mom who gets everything right. I smiled as I glanced over at the clock. I had woken up early before the kids. I'd already started a load of laundry, made the bed, and brewed my coffee. I was on track. Everything was going according to plan. Sophie woke up first, her tiny voice calling my name from the crib. I went to get her, smiling as I lifted her into my arms. "Good morning, sweet girl," I said, kissing her cheek. I set her down on the changing table, trying to keep everything calm and peaceful. But as I reached for the wipes, Sophie decided that today was the day she'd fight me on every single thing. She squirmed, trying to roll off the changing table, and when I finally managed to get her dressed, she threw her little socks on the floor and started crying. The perfect morning I had imagined? It was already slipping away. I tried to stay calm. "It's okay. We can do this." I kept repeating the mantra in my head as I tried to distract Sophie with her favorite doll, but the tears kept coming. By the time Liam woke up, I was already feeling the tension in my shoulders. Sophie's tantrum was still echoing in my mind. I tried to hide it, put on a smile as Liam came down the stairs, already grumpy because his socks were mismatched. It wasn't even 8 a.m., and my perfect day was already starting to unravel. "Mom, I can't find my favorite shoes," Liam complained, his voice whiny as he shoved things around the entryway. I watched him, frustration bubbling up in me. I just wanted things to go smoothly for once. I wanted to be the mom who had it all together, who didn't forget anything, who didn't lose her patience. But here I was, struggling before the day had even really begun. I set Sophie down with a toy and walked over to help Liam. "Liam, I told you to put your shoes by the door yesterday. Why can't you ever listen?" He looked at me, his face sullen. "I don't know, Mom." I closed my eyes, trying to stay patient. "Remember, today is supposed to be perfect." I repeated it like a mantra, but the words felt hollow. We managed to find the shoes, and I threw together a quick breakfast for everyone. Sophie ate 2 bites of oatmeal before deciding she was done. Liam complained that the toast wasn't warm enough, and I could feel the frustration rising in me again. As I loaded the dishwasher, I glanced at the clock. I was already running behind schedule. The pressure to be perfect was making everything feel harder. I wasn't enjoying any of it. I was trying to keep the house clean, make sure the kids were fed and dressed, handle the emails coming through on my phone, and pretend like it was all so easy. But it wasn't. I put the last dish away and grabbed my phone to check the time. We were already late for Liam's school. He was still in the kitchen, fiddling with his backpack, looking for something to eat. Sophie had wandered off with her doll. The whole morning felt like one big chaotic mess, and I was losing control of it. "Liam, we have to go!" I shouted, the words spilling out before I could stop them. My voice was sharp, and it wasn't fair to him. He looked at me, his eyes wide, and I instantly regretted raising my voice. I took a deep breath and walked over to him. "I'm sorry. Let's go, okay?" I kissed the top of his head and tried to push back the overwhelming guilt. Perfect moms don't yell. Perfect moms stay calm and collected. But I wasn't a perfect mom, and I was starting to realize that today might not be the day I managed to be one. We finally got Liam out the door, and Sophie and I stayed behind. I could feel the heaviness in my chest, the guilt that followed me around like a shadow. I was trying so hard to do everything right, but all I was doing was pushing myself further into exhaustion. The house felt quiet after Liam left, but it wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet. It was the kind of quiet where you're left alone with your thoughts and suddenly everything feels too much. Sophie was playing with her dolls, happily babbling to herself, but I couldn't shake the pressure that was building in me. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the list of things I still needed to do: laundry, cleaning, emails, another round of grocery shopping. The tasks were endless, and with each one I crossed off, 3 more would take its place. It felt like I was running a race I could never finish. Sophie came over to me, holding her doll up for me to see. "Mommy, look! Doll is dancing," she said, her voice filled with excitement. I smiled, trying to be present, trying to focus on the moment. But the weight of everything I still needed to do made it hard. "That's great, sweetheart. I said, my voice distracted. I leaned in to give her a quick kiss on the cheek, but my mind was already racing ahead, thinking about the laundry basket in the hallway and the dishes still sitting in the sink. Sophie tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, play with me." I took a deep breath and forced myself to focus. She deserves my attention. She deserves my presence. I nodded, dropping the list in my head and putting my phone down. "Okay, sweetie, let's play." We spent the next half hour playing with her dolls, watching her create elaborate stories with them, and for that brief moment, I felt like I was in the right place, doing the right thing, but it was fleeting, and the pressure crept back in. When Sophie went down for her nap, I took a moment to check my emails. As I scrolled through the endless messages, I felt the familiar panic start to rise in my chest. There were things I hadn't finished, things I had forgotten to do. I should have been more organized. I should have been more on top of everything. I decided to tackle the laundry. The basket in the hallway stared at me, mocking me with its ever-growing pile. As I folded clothes, I thought about how, in my head, I had built up this idea of the perfect mom. The one who had everything together. The one who didn't need help, who could do it all without breaking a sweat. But that mom didn't exist. She was just a dream I had created, an impossible standard that I was trying to meet. As I folded a shirt, I caught a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror. My hair was up in a messy bun, and I was wearing the same sweatpants I'd been wearing for 2 days. The exhaustion was written all over my face. I didn't look like a perfect mom. I looked like a mom who was trying her best, but who was barely holding it all together. I put the shirt down and sat on the floor for a second, closing my eyes. What would it feel like to let go of the need to be perfect? I asked myself. The idea of it felt both freeing and terrifying. What if I stopped trying to be everything for everyone? What if I just let myself be human? I thought about the morning, how I had snapped at Liam, how I had let the pressure of everything pile up until I couldn't keep it inside anymore. It hurt. I hated that I had raised my voice when all I wanted was to make him feel heard and loved. I hated that I had been so focused on perfection that I had missed the opportunity to just be present with him. I realized that my need for perfection was rooted in my own insecurities. I wanted to prove that I was capable, that I could do it all without breaking. But the truth was, I couldn't. And that was okay. It's okay to not have it all together, I whispered to myself. It's okay to be messy. When Sophie woke up from her nap, I felt a little lighter. The weight of the day hadn't completely lifted, but I knew I needed to make a change. I couldn't keep pushing myself to be perfect. It wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't fair to me. I took Sophie out for a walk around the block. The fresh air felt good, and as we strolled through the neighborhood, I could feel the tension in my shoulders ease. We walked in silence for a while, just enjoying the simplicity of the moment. And for the first time in a long time, I realized that maybe this was enough. Just being with her, just showing up in the moment. As we walked back home, I noticed something. The perfection I had been chasing wasn't out there. It wasn't in the perfectly cleaned house or the perfectly packed lunches. It wasn't in the perfectly timed routines or the perfectly organized schedule. It was in the messy moments, in the times when I wasn't trying to control everything. It was in the moments when I allowed myself to be human, to be real. By the time dinner rolled around, I was feeling a little more at ease with myself. I still hadn't finished everything I wanted to. The laundry was still sitting in the basket, there were dishes in the sink, and I hadn't gotten through half of my emails. But for the first time that day, I was starting to accept that maybe that was okay. I was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner, when I heard the familiar sound of Liam's voice coming up the stairs. He was home from school. I felt my stomach tighten. I hadn't had a chance to really talk to him since this morning, and I wasn't sure where to start. He walked into the kitchen, slinging his backpack over the chair. He looked at me with a mix of uncertainty and wariness, like he didn't know what to expect from me. I took a deep breath and put down the knife. "Hey, buddy," I said softly, my voice calm but steady. "We need to talk about this morning." Liam hesitated for a moment, looking down at the floor. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said quietly. "I didn't mean it. I didn't mean what I said." The words were small, but they were enough. They were the beginning of an apology, of him trying to understand what had happened. And for me, it was a relief to hear it. I knelt down to his level, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "Liam, I know you didn't mean it, but when you said you hated me, it really hurt," I said gently. "I'm not perfect, and I know I don't always get it right, but I'm trying my best, and I just want you to know that." He looked at me, his eyes softening. I know, Mom. I was just mad. I didn't know what else to say. I smiled, giving him a small nod. It's okay to be mad, buddy. But it's important to remember that we can talk about our feelings without hurting each other. Liam nodded, his face still a little downcast. I didn't mean to make you sad. I reached out and pulled him into a hug. I know you didn't. And I'm not mad at you. I just want us to be able to talk to each other when we're upset, okay? Okay, he said, hugging me back. I'm sorry, Mom. I held him a little longer, feeling that familiar warmth in my chest. This was the moment I had been hoping for. Not perfection, not a perfect mom or a perfect son, but a real human moment of connection. After dinner, I sat down at the table with the kids. The house was a mess, the laundry was still undone, and there were dirty dishes sitting on the counter. But as I looked at Liam and Sophie, I realized something. This was my life, and it was enough. I didn't need everything to be perfect. I didn't need to have it all together. What mattered was that we were here, together. We were showing up for each other, even in our messes. Sophie was eating her dinner, her cheeks puffed out as she chewed, and Liam was talking about his day at school, his voice animated as he described his friends and what they had done. For the first time all day, I allowed myself to just listen, to be present. The weight of perfection started to lift. It didn't matter that I hadn't been able to do everything I'd planned. It didn't matter that the house was still cluttered, or that I had yelled this morning, or that my perfect day had slipped away. What mattered was the small moments, the hugs, the laughter, the quiet conversations. When the kids were in bed, and I had finally cleaned up the kitchen, again, I sat down on the couch and picked up my notebook. I started writing, my pen moving across the paper without hesitation. Today, I tried to be perfect. I tried to do it all, to be everything for everyone. And I failed. But you know what? That's okay. Because I'm not perfect, and I don't need to be. I just need to show up, and that's enough. I don't have to have it all together. I just have to keep trying. And I will. I set my pen down and sat back on the couch, the weight of the day finally lifting. I didn't have to be the perfect mom. I didn't have to do everything right. All I had to do was show up and be real. That was enough.